The Measure of a Man. The story of a father, a son, and a suit. Are your lapels sexy? Admittedly, lapel isn't a sexy word, but as the part of the jacket front that flips open to expose the shirt, and more importantly, the throat and chest, lapels are positively erotic. They are the suggestive, soft part of the suit. The French call the point where the lapel and collar meet the gorge, throat, a lovely word used by the English as well. The gorge suggests mystery, depth, and danger. One could fall into the gorge and never come back up. Originally, there was no lapel on the coat. A man either wore his coat open or buttoned up over his sternum, up to his neck, which would then be dressed with a ruff, a lace collar, or a cravat. Then it dawned upon some young men to leave the top buttons open. This practice of artful dishevelment seemed to amplify the dashingness of a suit. It gave the wearer a romantic, windswept look, as if his clothes had been just slightly undone by vigorous horse riding. Later on, it became formalized when the front flaps of the coat were permanently folded out. Some assert a suit can't really be a suit without a lapel. Anne Hollander, in her authoritative study, Sex and Suits, makes the argument that the suit really comes into being when tailors master the lapel and collar sometime between 1750 and 1800. Hollander writes, "Its collar was forced by clever cut, steaming and stiffening to curve up and around the neck, to fold over and open out in front, and to form lapels that would obediently lie down and align themselves smoothly with the body of the coat. This perfectly tailored collar and flat-lying lapel still forms the most distinctive element of the modern suit coat and became the formal sign of modernity in dress." Now, Hollander's diction, with its tone of sadomasochism, says it all. You can almost hear the repeated crack and slackening of the whip with her use of the words stiffening, curve, obediently. Please note, though, I am wrong to say a lapel is folded. With the word fold, one thinks of a harsh line or edge as on the wing of a paper airplane. True tailors actually call the turning of the lapel from the inside out the roll. Done properly, the lapel will not look folded out at all. Instead, it will roll out like a blossoming flower petal. A great lapel should remind one of the bee-stung lips of Angelina Jolie, all fullness and sensuality. They are wool labia opening out with an incredible lushness. With great lapels, the most masculine article in the man's arsenal, the suit, comes alive with a feminine opening, which perhaps explains the enduring phallic nature of the essential suit accessory, the long tie. Lapels can be, should be, kinky, dangerous, sleek, potent. To wit, if someone touches your suit sleeve, you're onto something good. If he or she strokes your lapel, the deal has been sealed. Hail a taxi and have at thee. All men deserve beautifully rolled lapels. Exactly how much lapel is too much lapel in my father's suit? They measure 4 inches. They are, to my reckoning, too wide. But how much to take away eludes me. I suppose I could very easily slice off an inch, and make it conform to the current standard of 3 inches. But then I would just be following the crowd, another sheep in serge clothing. What is the right proportion? What are the correct geometries? In the past, holy geometries have risen out of the body. Men like Michelangelo and Leonardo carved up cadavers to discover the secret harmony of the body. There are equations in which I can plug my measurements and ostensibly derive the best width for a lapel. But the idea of following someone else's law makes me reluctant. Either way, it isn't easy to cleave into a whole and sound garment, albeit ugly, with a pair of scissors. It goes against any natural instinct. It is an act of annihilation. It is the opening of Pandora's box and a call for high-order mayhem. Lopping off 2 or more inches of wool can sometimes feel like diving off a cliff with the hope that the water below is deep enough so you don't go splat, but not so deep that you'll drown. You just have to lie to yourself a bit. I have to tell myself it's going to be all right. Except I have no clue how to do this. As a guide, I have Classic Tailoring Techniques, a construction guide for menswear by Roberta Cabrera and Patricia Flaherty Myers. The manual provides step-by-step instructions on how to build a suit from scratch. It says, wide lapels and pleated trousers may combine to create too heavy an impression for a shorter man, slightly built. Right? But get this, they also say, none of this is gospel. Use your eye and trust your judgment. Trust your own judgment? Okay, that's not exactly what I wanted to hear. In front of the mirror, with the jacket on, I decide I can't leave it at 4 inches. You have to understand, I measure at the chest 38 inches. Viewed from the front in my father's suit, I present a breadth of only 16 inches. Half my chest is being taken up by his lapels. Not a good thing. In tailoring, as in most other visual arts, we try for proportions that avoid dividing the body in half. Details that introduce asymmetry are a good thing. A fine example of that is the breast pocket, only one over the heart on the left side. Indeed, suit elements are often slightly off to one side, instead of dead center, to make the whole composition dynamic. A coat hem that divides the upper and lower body exactly in half is almost always a tragedy. It makes for a deadening, unflattering proportion. Shifting a hem a few inches can make a torso appear neat and trim and give the illusion of longer legs. Any adjustment on a suit is a delicate adjustment, one I'm quickly discovering that you have to do by eye rather than by measuring tape. But should I? I basted a line of stitches along the lapels, making them no wider than 1/3 my chest size when viewed from the front. I base a dash line of stitches over the navy using a heavy orange thread from a giant 10,000-yard spool. The best part of base stitching is that this is sewing without commitment. No fabric is damaged, and it is one of the most important techniques in haute couture and tailoring. Baste 1,000, cut and sew only once. It reminds me of sketching or underpainting, or the way I used to draft floor plans with a 9H pencil, a lead hard as a nail. There's something to be said about making, imagining without commitment. My problem is I can't stop basting now. Instead of plowing along 1/3 lapels, full speed ahead, I start basting alternative cut lines. How about 3/10 mark? Wouldn't that be more refined and subtle? I mean, the law of thirds is so obvious. I put down one track of base stitches after another. Soon the jacket starts to look like a map of the London Underground. I have become lost. Yet the more I handle the suit, the more I remember about my father. My fondest memories are of wrestling with him on weekends. My fighting style was a synthesis of 3 techniques. 1, Batroc the Leaper, Captain America's nemesis. 2, the giant robot karate moves of Ultraman. And 3, the ancient techniques taught at the Shatner School of Hand-to-Hand Combat for Starfleet officers. We would clear a space in the living room and I would unleash a series of double-fisted blows on my father's back until he collapsed on the ground. But it was always a ruse. I would jump on him, and that was my fatal error because he was an expert grappler. Gently but firmly, he would begin to use Greco-Roman locks to twist me into a pretzel. My father would fold and refold me until I was a small ball, and then pin me in such a way that my back was to the floor and every other part of me, it seemed, was trapped under the dome of his body. I saw only darkness, and through a crack of light between his forearms, a portion of his face, big, round, moon-like. He was the sky and the horizon, and I was never happier as a child than when I was enveloped by his warm, comforting presence.